Hey ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? Well, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living in our environment right now. It's in your food, your water, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, your skincare products. They all mess with your hormones. Then there's the natural hormone changes your body goes through, premenopause, menopause. And while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. The good news is you don't have to suffer through it anymore because now you have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Hormone Harmony is not just a hormone supporting supplement, it's become a phenomenon. Women can't stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. And the biggest benefit? Well, my wife says it makes her feel like her own self again. And that's what women mention over and over in the reviews. And there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC for 15% off today. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to or during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?
When the wolf is at your door, your running's over, that's for sure. He already knows all about you. Cut you down, no matter by you. Now you better walk the line. Real life, real
Warning, this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, may contain descriptions of acts of violence or that of a sexual nature and should be for people that are 18 years or older. Heed my warning, people. I do not get the facts of these cases off of the internet or from some television show. The facts I'm retelling you were presented to me by the victims of the crimes or the perpetrators who committed the crimes against the victims. My descriptions of the crime scenes, what I saw with my own two eyes. If you're going to get offended, please turn this podcast off now. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. And as always, I'm your host, Woody Overton. Wow, y'all. Today, I'm going to tell you a story I bet you never heard of about a serial killer, and I'm going to name it Louisiana's worst serial killer. And, you know, I thought I'd known of every major serial killer in our state. This one was brought to me by Leah Marie, who's shout out to you, girl. You continue to give me stories that no one's ever heard of, but it's just a absolutely horrific case, and it dates all the way back to 1984. And I'm gonna try to tell you about some of the murders and the case scenes, and I'm fortunate enough to have the file stuff. But just stick with me, and warning, this is just really, really, really graphic. Let's go back to August 31st, 1984. Now, there was a lady named Deborah Ford, who was a 25-year-old single mom who lived at 315 East 74th Street in the Cedar Grove area of Shreveport, Louisiana, y'all. Now, Shreveport is in the most northwestern corner of the state and the largest city in North Louisiana. So, Deborah Ford, I told you she was a single mom, and she had two daughters, Nikki, who was 9 years old, and Sean, who was 5 years old at the time. And they lived in a small shotgun-style home. And if I don't know if shotgun-style homes are really anywhere else in the United States. I never really paid attention to it or seen them, but in Louisiana, a shotgun home, and they're common, it's a long, narrow house where you walk into the living room and you walk through a door into the kitchen area, and then you walk into the back bedrooms. But it's straight in the house, and they call it a shotgun house because they say you can stand at the front door and take a shotgun and kill everything in the house with one shot. It's long and narrow, okay? Usually kind of in the poor neighborhoods, small houses, but long and straight. So like I said, this really wasn't a very nice neighborhood, if you will. And Deborah Ford's house had been burglarized several times before. Now, what does she do to try to curtail that? From most burglaries happen when people aren't home, and most people don't realize that burglaries happen during the daytime. Like 95% of them. Ford called her dad after the last burglary happened. She's like, "Dad, what am I going to do about this?" And so her dad comes over, and the back door of the house, he nailed it shut. Okay, so that's where people had been gaining entry because it couldn't be seen from the street, or whoever was burglarizing it couldn't be seen from the street. So he nails the back door shut, and he goes around the outside of the house, and he nails the screens over all the windows. All right, so like you can't get the screen off and climb through the window. But on August 30th, 1984, Ford had taken her daughter shopping for school clothes with Sean's father, Danny Ware. And they got home to the house on 74th Street at approximately 9:30 p.m. And Danny Ware and Deborah spoke outside the house, and, like a father and daughter will, right? And during that time, Nikki, the daughter, got a stuffed animal to take to her grandma's house where the kids were going to go spend the night. And when they were leaving the house, Nikki noticed that a bathroom window was open, and she closed it, right? And she placed a wooden stick above. When you shut the window, you have the top part, you put the wooden stick on there so it can't be open from the inside, okay? But remember also that the screens were nailed shut from the outside. So the window didn't have any kind of lock to stop people from coming in, other than the dad had nailed the screens on the outside to the wooden building. So, but that stick is not a perfect defense mechanism. If you want to get in, you can get in, and you could shake the window real hard or jiggle it and make that stick fall down. So Danny Ware got the two girls and loaded up in the car and drove them over to the grandma's house. So Ford had neighbors, and she was known in the neighborhood, and she was talking to a lady named Gussie Bell and her daughter, Juanita Parks. And then she quits talking to them and she goes in her house sometime right around 10 p.m. Now, Michael Bell, Gussie Bell's brother, visited Ford in her home. I don't know if they were dating or whatever, but he goes over and hangs out with her for about an hour to around 11 p.m. And then Ford talked to a friend, Gregor Bell, 3 times between 8 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. And then she went to bed. Now, y'all, she slept on the couch in her house for whatever reason. That's what she did every night. Sometime between 12:30 a.m. and 8 a.m. on August 31st of 1984, a bad guy came and he pried the screen loose from the bathroom window and ripped it away, ripped it open, and then he was able to shake that window like I told you about and get that piece of wood to fall down, and then he slipped the window open, right? And when he climbed through, he had a piece of metal and he used to keep the window open, I guess in case he needed to make a quick escape. And then he entered the house. Well, when he entered the house, he left a smudged partial footprint in the bathtub right beneath the window, and he knocked paint and debris and dirt into the bathroom from the window, right? So obviously the window wasn't used much and it was dirty. So when he did that shaking and he climbs through, he knocks evidence in and he leaves his footprint. He goes in and he finds Deborah Ford on the couch and he attacks her. All right. And there was evidently a fight. There was furniture that was knocked over and the couch cushions were thrown about. And the bad guy cut an electrical cord from a box fan in the kitchen, and they used it to tie Ford's hands behind her back. Okay. And later on, it was found out that Ford, obviously, like I told you, they had fought and she had bruised her hands trying to defend herself. But at some point, he gets the electrical cord from the kitchen, cuts it, and he tied her hands behind her back. Now, this is very important, y'all, because this is the MO that this serial killer uses through all his murders. So he takes the cord and he puts it around her left wrist and then loops it around her right wrist, which leaves a space in between, and like a handcuff, the metal box on handcuff, and the loose end was tied to the cord on the left wrist. Okay. Ford was then gagged with a shirt. And while she was bound and gagged, the bad guy stabbed her on the couch, right? And then he dragged her body to the floor where she was stabbed again. Then again and 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 again. She was stabbed. That's just in the chest. She was stabbed 9 times in the chest. Then 2 more. Stab on the left side of Ford's body. And then stab 7 times on the right side, y'all. And some of the wounds went so far in that they penetrated her lungs. Well, you stab her that many times, you think she's dead, and the bad guy moves her body to the middle of the room, but he's not done. He then, and this, I don't even understand this, but he then cut her throat 6 times, sliced her throat 6 times from right to left, which cut through her jugular vein and her carotid artery and her larynx and her esophagus. Look, he cut her so deep, it was almost to her spinal column. But despite the 9 times he stabbed her in the chest and other stab wounds, Ford was still alive when he slit her throat 6 times. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the terror? And she fought, and she's tied up, and you stab this however many times, and then you slice your throat 6 more times all the way to the spinal column. And she ultimately died from the blood loss from the neck. And it was estimated that the attack to the time she died, y'all, 15 to 30 minutes. Figure that out. And God rest her soul, and the terror that she must have gone through, and the brutality of that attack. So around 8 a.m. the next morning, Brenda Greggs walked over to use the telephone at Ford's house. Remember, y'all, back in 84, there were no cell phones and all that. It was all landlines. And I'm guessing there wasn't a payphone in the neighborhood, but Brenda Greggs was friends with Ford, and she goes over to use the telephone, and she finds the front doors partially open, right? And she could hear music playing from a stereo. Well, she's like, hey, where you at? Hello. Remember, it's a small, straight shotgun house, and she ends up pushing the door open, and that's when she saw Ford on the ground of the living room wearing only her nightgown. But remember this, as important as the way her hands were tied in a certain way, Ford was wearing only her nightgown, but it was turned inside out. Okay? I mean, so Greggs freaks out, calls the cops, and they got there. And by the time they got there, it's small neighborhood, everybody knows everybody. There was a crowd that was gathered, and they're watching the cops, and they work the scenes, and the coroner comes in, and they look at it, and they bag and tag her, and they establish that there was a Dr. George McCormick, who was the Caddo Parish coroner. In Caddo Parish, y'all, is where Shreveport's located at. And remember, in Louisiana, we have parishes, not counties. And he determined that the crime scene or the murder was the work of one person, but it was clearly a signature crime. And he told the cops, said, listen, this is a work of a serial killer, and this dude's going to kill again. How did he determine this? Because he noted that there were 4 signature elements of the crime, okay? One being the bad guy's total control over the victim, okay? That's common in serial killers. But 2, he used a knife to both stab and cut. Very unusual. Now remember, stabbing is a very personal crime, but he not only stabbed her so many times, but then he slit her throat 6 times, okay? The third element that made him believe it was a serial killer was the binding of Ford, right? With the electrical cord, but specifically the unique way that he did it, the way that he tied it from left to right, and where it was like a set of handcuffs. And Dr. McCormick said that the killer was definitely right-handed. So the detectives it's a small house. The detectives work it, and they find 3 latent palm prints and a thumbprint on the bathroom window. Remember, the window was still open, held open with this piece of metal, and evidently the bad guy didn't take the time to climb back out the window. He just went out the front door, and that's where the neighbor came over and heard the stereo. So, y'all, the palm prints, and a thumbprint, fingerprints are great, but palm prints are even better. And you have to have so many, what they call ridges, so many identifying points to even classify it as to one person. Well, these were clear, good palm prints, and they were on the bathroom window, the windowsill, and inside the wall below the window. And the position of the prints were consistent with someone opening the window from the outside. And all three palm prints and the thumbprint were later used to identify the serial killer. Okay, and that's one murder. Now, remember the doctor said this is a serial killer and he's going to do it again. Well, on July 19th, 1985, just a few blocks from Ford's home in Shreveport at 213 East 72nd Street, there was a lady named Vivian Chaney who lived with her boyfriend, Billy Joe Harris, and also living in the house was Chaney's brother, Jerry Colbert, and her three daughters, Carletha Colbert, Tamika Chaney, and Marla Chaney. Now, the Vivian Chaney and Carletha Colbert and Jerry Colbert were slightly mentally handicapped, but Tamika and Marla Chaney were definitely mentally handicapped. Sometime between 11:30 p.m. on July the 18th, 1985, and 6 a.m. the next morning, the back door to the Chaney house was forced open. Now, Jerry Colbert and Billy Joe Harris and Carletha Colbert and Vivian Chaney were all brutally murdered, y'all. Okay? Now let me describe the scene to you. Each of them were found in separate rooms, but the youngest girls, Tamika, who was 10 then, and Marla, 7, they were found alive and safe and uninjured. Let's go back to the crime scene. 29-year-old Billy Harris was killed in the front bedroom. He was shot twice in the left side of his head through a pillow. Now, why do you do that? You put the pillow over their head either so they can't see it coming, or you surprise and put the pillow over their head and you put the pistol on there. And a lot of times killers will use the pillow also as a type of silencer. All right. But even after Billy Joe was shot twice in the head, he was also shot twice in the chest. Okay. That's bad, right? You're sleeping, knocked out. Some guy comes in, puts a pillow on your head, shoots you twice in the head, and they shoot you twice in the chest. But even after being shot 4 times, y'all, he was still alive. What happens then? The killer slices his throat. Remember Ford's case, right? Throat slit 6 times. Yeah, but then the killer doesn't stop there. And they take Billy Joe Harris's hands, they tied him behind his back with shoelaces. And his right, just like Ford, his right wrist was tied tightly, and then that loop was made for the left wrist in a handcuff ligature. That's what they call it. But his ankles were also tied together with shoelaces. And just like in Ford's case, when they cut the box fan cord off to, make a ligature, to tie her up, a telephone cord was cut in Billy Joe Harris's case, and it was used to tie his hands to his ankle, like hog time, y'all. And he was fully clothed. All right. Now the killer proceeds to the house, and they find 25-year-old Jerry Colbert, and they shoot him and kill him. Shoot him once at close range in the left side of his head, but he was found in his bed, still in his bedclothes, in the back bedroom of the house, and there was no sign of a struggle, and he was killed instantly, evidently, no signs of a struggle, and he didn't have any kind of ligatures. He wasn't tied up or anything like that. Killer moves through the house, right, and gets to the living room. Well, in the living room, the 15-year-old Carletha Colbert was sleeping, and she's brutally attacked. And she was found lying on her stomach, again, with her hands tied behind her back, again, with an electrical cord. This time, this electrical cord was cut from an iron that was found in the house, and the cord was wrapped tightly around her left wrist and looped around her right wrist in that handcuff ligature, like I told you about. Then the the electrical cord, it looked like the killer tried to tie it around her ankles, as it, if he wanted to hog tie her like he did the other victims, but something must have happened. He got interrupted and he never did complete the hog tying. But there was an untied piece of shoestring draped over her left leg, and she had been gagged with silver duct tape. And then guess what, y'all? Just like Ford, the shorts she was wearing were inside out. Okay? Now, doesn't stop there. Her throat was also cut. And then her body was moved while she was still alive. And her throat was cut so deep, y'all, her head was almost cut off. She was almost decapitated. And there were 2 large pools of blood found by her body. One area of blood near her left knee had a blotted semicircle, and a second pool of blood was found by her neck where she finally bled to death. All right? Sounds similar, right? Stick with me. Killer then goes to the next victim in the house, 37-year-old Vivian Chaney. And this is kind of strange, but it still fits in. And she was found in the bathroom, slumped over the bathtub. Well, guess what? Her hands were tied behind her back with a cut telephone cord. Now, the cord came.
Hey, y'all, let me tell you about Gobble. All Gobble meal kits are pre-prepped. That means less work for you and less waste in your kitchen. Their meal kits include everything you need so you can save time at the store or just skip that trip entirely. I got the box in and I had 3 different meals. I had a Kung Pao chicken, crispy fish tacos, and a beef bourguignon, however you say it. But let me tell you about the classic beef bourguignon. Look, it came with beef pot roast and a beef broth concentrate, red wine demi-glace, cremini mushrooms, cipollone onions, mashed potatoes, baby carrots, and rosemary thyme butter. It was so easy to make. Literally like 15 minutes it took Cindy. And let me tell you something, and all the dishes were fire, but this thing was like a taste explosion in my mouth. It's just unreal. We've got to spend more time together and more time doing the things we love because everything came in this one single box right to my door. So see what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering my listeners a fantastic limited time deal. You get $120 off across 4 boxes plus free shipping and free cookies. And let me tell you, those cookies, I ate one that was sin-baked and it was delicious. Go to gobble.com/real life. That's GOBBLE.com/real life for $120 off your first 4 boxes. This offer is not available on the home site, so don't miss out. This is genius. It's taste explosions in your mouth like you never had. Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts to spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of LSU's Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdown scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV, and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday host and hostess gift to the coolest finds for kids, to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
Around the front of her waist and then down between her legs and tied her ankles. What's important about this is, y'all, this was done where she could still move and be forced to walk. Even like you had to hop along or hobble along. She also had a mark on her neck where she had another ligature that had been used to lead around like a dog chain, right? But it wasn't there anymore. But it was. There was enough evidence where you could see the mark on her neck. It was pulled tight, and probably that they assumed that the killer was dragging her around like a dog and led her away from the rest of the murder scene, right? So on the back of Vivian's dress was a large amount of Carlitha's blood over the butt area or the buttocks area and the lower hem of the dress, which to detectives it told the story or indicated that Vivian had sat in the pool of blood caused by the cutting of Carlitha's neck, right? So now can you imagine the terror in here in this home? So far he's gone in, he shoots one numerous times, one guy, then he goes to the back, he kills the other one while they're sleeping, then he goes to the living room and brutally murders the daughter, but there's evidence that he made the mama sit there and watch, y'all, and had her tied up and choked her down, and he leads her to the bathroom. And that's why they believe this, because the blood that was found on her nightgown when she's in the bathroom was that of her daughter's. And remember, there was a smudged area in the blood by Carlitha's neck. In Vivian's case, there was evidence of both manual and ligature strangulation. She had been violently beaten about the head, so she had a lot of trauma to her head, but that's not what killed her, y'all. She died from a combination of the strangling and bathtub drowning. So this dude goes in, does all this, but obviously he kills Vivian last, but he makes her watch everything and it drags her through the home. And ultimately, he beats her at her head and violently, but I don't know what happened to the cord that he had around her neck, but he was both choking her and he filled up the bathtub, y'all. He took the time to fill up the bathtub and he drowned her at the same time. Freaky, right? But if I'm the detective, I roll up on the scene. This is not that long after Ford's death. It closed her inside out. The specific way the victims are hogtied and using that handcuff ligature, the slice in the throat and everything. I'm gonna be like, holy fuck, right? But certainly these two have to be related. But anyway, back to the crime scene. All these bodies were discovered at 6 a.m. on July 19th of 1985 by Shirley Culbert, who's the sister of Vivian Chaney and Jerry Culbert. And she just happened to be coming into town for a surprise visit to the family, and she gets there at 6 a.m., knocks on the door, no answer, right? But what does she hear? She hears a stereo playing, just like Deborah Ford. So she knocks, nobody answers, but there's stereo playing. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. This house full of kids and everything, right? So she goes around to the back door and she tries a hand. Well, first of all, she knocks and there's no answer either. She tries the handle, and back then, in the mid '80s, we'd never locked our doors either. The door's unlocked, and she goes in, and she finds that Tamika and Marla, the 2 young kids, asleep in the bed, and she tried to wake them up, and she said it was really hard to wake them up, but when she did wake them up, the girls became hysterical. When one of them walked out and saw another body, and they became hysterical, and she saw the bodies, and they run out of the house and they call the police. After the crime scene was worked, et cetera, and I used to do this too. I would bring in family relatives, people that knew them well, and say, "Hey, is there anything missing?" And just trying to establish some kind of motive, right? Well, family members said that there were several items missing from the house, including Jerry Culver's wallet, a jar of loose change, food stamps, and this is very important, y'all, in the investigation later on, food stamps and a food stamp ID card. Now, back then, y'all, food stamps, grub stubs, whatever you want to call them, they were actual stamps, and there were no debit cards. Put yourself back in this time frame, 1985. No debit cards, and you had to actually go to the store and tear off your stamp to pay for your food. Also missing from the house were pictures of the young girls that were still alive and a striped tote bag. Now, there was no money found in the house either. Although through the investigation, the cops learned that Vivian Chaney had cashed a check the day before for $100. Now, $100 back in 85 is like $1,000 today. It was a lot of money. So, well, Dr. McCormick had to get called out to the scene again. Remember, he's the coroner for Caddo Parish. And he's like, again, look, this crime was committed by one person, and it's definitely a serial killer, and he's working alone. And, he told him, said serial killers not only kill over and over again, but their crimes escalate, right? And McCormick thought that this crime scene was an escalation on Deborah Ford's murder, and that they were committed by the same person. So he also said, this dude probably lives in the neighborhood and could be among the crowds that gather at these homicide scenes. Well, that comes into play later on too, y'all. He said that this murder scene was an indication of the progression of the serial killer, and as he went between all the different victims in the house, and that he had used a gun to control the victims. Obviously, he went in and he shot the 2 males. But then he's Dr. McCormick saying, hey, he had to use the gun to control the rest of the victims. Remember, he made the mom watch why he murdered the daughter and all that. So Dr. McCormick also said that like I told you, that the killer had threatened Carlitha's life to mobilize Vivian Chaney and Billie Joe Harris. Now, Vivian Chaney was tied so she could walk, I told you about, and Carlitha's hands were tied. And after tying up Billie Joe Harris, the killer shot him through the pillow to prevent to stop waking up Jerry Culver, who was in the back bedroom. Jerry Culver is the one I told you who was shot while he slept. And he said that the murderer then cut Carlitha's throat but didn't kill her. And that's when he made Vivian Chaney sit down in her daughter's blood before he took her to the bathroom and killed her by strangling her and drowning her. Now, I've been doing this a long time, y'all, and I've never had that combination, okay? After he strangles and drowns her, he returns to the living room where Carlitha is, and it appeared that he moved her, and he finished killing her by trying to, guess what, decapitate her. Same thing as Ford, right? And Billy Joe Harris, even though he had shot him, he after the fact, and they were able to establish this by blood, not having a huge amount of blood where it happened. He returns to Billy Joe Harris and stabs him in the neck one more time. Yeah. Whoa, I'm going to make sure he's double dead, right? Even though you already shot him. All right, so the cops come in, do what they do, and they're investigating the scene, and they find pieces of duct tape, which were consistent with the type used to gag Carletha Chaney in the alley behind the Chaney's house. They found the duct tape in the alley behind the Chaney house, and they found the duct tape on Carletha Chaney, right? And they appeared to be the same. Now, they processed the crime scene. There was no DNA back then, y'all. You're looking for hairs and prints and everything else, and they found 3 latent left palm prints on the bathtub over where Vivian Chaney's body was draped. I remember she was drowned and strangled. And Dr. McCormick said again that the killer was right-handed, and he had used his dominant hand, his right hand, to hold her head underwater while he steadied himself with his left hand against the wall. And that's where the fresh prints had were lifted, the palm prints, okay? And it's just crazy. They just totally crazy. So there was a guy named Oscar Washington. Now, he was in the Louisiana National Guard, and he was out jogging, right, at 2:15 a.m. in the morning by the intersections of Henderson Street and 72nd and 73rd Street. And as he was jogging, he sees this dude, right? Well, he knows the guy. I'm not going to tell you his name yet. And he knew him from the neighborhood. And they spoke for a few minutes, and this guy was telling Washington that, hey, yeah, man, I'm going to go attend to some business, right? And then Washington notices that the guy has a little brown paper bag rolled up under his arm. And Washington didn't think much about it. He chatted with him for a second and continued his run down the street. About 45 minutes later, he's still running, right? Getting his jog on. And he's coming back through, and he again sees the same guy on at the same intersection, right? But this time, the dude's covered in blood, and he's headed south on Henderson Street. And Washington's like, hey, bro, what happened? You okay? What happened? And the guy says, I got into it with somebody, and I came out on top. And, I got even. So Washington noticed that the guy who's still covered in blood was carrying a peppermint striped bag. And the guy was like, hey, dude, to Washington, he said, you want to buy some stuff? And he opens his bag and he shows him, and he was like, you buy this knife? And Washington really kind of described it as a dagger and not so much a knife. He said it was a dagger with a 7 to 8 inch blade. Guess what? Also inside was a pistol. He was like, bro, you want to buy the pistol? And also in the bag were credit cards. Bro, you want to buy the credit cards? Also in the bag, some food stamps. You want to buy some food stamps? And some weed. But when Washington's looking at the bag, he's looking at the items the guy wants to sell. The food stamps were covered in blood. All right. So a couple of days go by, and Washington's in the neighborhood walking down the street, and this guy comes up to him, the same guy that was covered in the blood, said, I got even, tried to sell him items and all that. He goes up to him, and he says, hey, bro, he said, what'd you see me do? And Washington's like, bro, I don't know what you're talking about. And the guy was like, what'd you see me do? He said, bro, I didn't see you do anything. And Washington noticed that the guy was gritting his teeth and he balled up his fist. Very important. Comes into play later on. So on that same night, a neighbor that lived close by in the neighborhood saw the same guy that was covered in blood, that Washington saw covered in blood and tried to sell him the items on the street. He had seen him standing on the corner of Henderson Street and 72nd Street looking into the Chaney house at 5:30 a.m. on July 19th. And y'all, this was just before the bodies were discovered. And remember, Dr. McCormick said this is a serial killer. He's probably in these crowds watching the crime scenes. Anytime a murder's happen in a hood like that or anywhere, any neighborhood, the people are going to come out. The crime scene tape's going to be up. You're going to wonder about your neighbors. I've worked 1,000 of them, and people are standing around watching, and they watch until the body bags come out and all that. And better than anything they've ever seen on TV. I hate to say better, but more interesting or whatever. So you know what? I'm gonna stop right there. This dude killed so many people, and I'm not gonna tell you the name yet because if you've heard of it before, I'll be shocked. And Leah Marie, this is one that I don't know why I didn't know about, because he is Louisiana's worst serial killer. And y'all, we've had a lot. You think Derek Todd Lee, you think Sean Vincent Gillis, well, these are the ones that people know about since social media came around. This dude defined serial killer. Now the FBI is going to get involved in it in the profiling. This is in the beginning of profiling. And I'm going to tell you about all that, but the murders aren't over with, y'all. This dude's just getting started. And I'm going to tell you about the rest of the murders, and it's going to kind of freak you out on the things that I'm going to tell you, so you'll be warned on the next episode. But it's all real deal. And I'm going to give you the forewarning. On the next episode, I'm going to go into some more graphic details. All right. So I'm going to stop it right there. I'm going to say that I love and appreciate each and every one of y'all. Patreon members, convicts, Apple subscribers. I hope you are enjoying your bonus episodes. And guess what? From now on, all Patreon episodes, the ones that are locked in the vault, will also be video recorded, and I have the capability now. We did it on the last episode. It got an overwhelming response. Y'all loved it. And so, I guess I need to do more video. And real life, real crime, a lot of big stuff coming, y'all. The TV stuff is still in the works. I'll tell you about it as soon as I can. And Real Life, Real Crime Daily, y'all, that's the show I do with Jim Chapman and Mike Agavino. Totally different than Real Life, Real Crime. Drops 4 days a week. And naturally, we've changed the original Real Life, Real Crime from Tuesdays to Saturdays like I used to do it. But anyway, Patreon, convicts, and subscribers, appreciate y'all so much. And we're going to be doing more and more and more episodes than I've ever done in the past. The stories are already there, and they'll be audio and video recorded. If you can't be a Patreon member or convict, I get it. Love you just as much. Thank you for listening, liking, and sharing. Y'all go check out the Real Life, Real Crime Community app in the App Store. It's free. And I get these messages every day from people that are hurting and want me to work their family's cases. And I get that, y'all. But if you're going to send me information, please send it to woody@realliferealcrime.com with as much information as you have. I'll be honest with you. If a lot of times I don't get to a lot of the Facebook pages and stuff like that till days later, and I do get to them eventually, but I go to the Real Life, Real Crime Community app first thing every morning and every time I log in throughout the day, and then I'll go to the Real Life, Real Crime crew page and stuff like that, kind of in that order. But if you're going to ask me to look at a cold case, I'm asking you to provide me with all the information that you can to woody@realliferealcrime.com. Now, Swim, the podcast, that shit's still happening. Unfortunately, this is a business and things have to be worked out. Hashtag justice for all you people who are out there hurting and sending me these stories about your family members, the ones that are serious about it, and send me the full caseloads, etc. I'm going to do a podcast where I highlight these cases now, and we'll have the tip line for all of them, just like we do Miss Barbara Blunt's, and we'll give the face to the victims, okay, and tell these stories, because most of them aren't known. Like 99% of them y'all send to me I've never heard of, all right? So this 2024 is going to be a fire year for us. We got more things starting than we've ever started. Now, Swim and hashtag Justice For will not be on the Real Life Real Crime feed. They're going to be totally separate from Real Life Real Crime, totally independent shows. The TV stuff, totally independent, but I'll explain more to you as it goes along. I know y'all get tired of me saying, hey, this is going to start, and it doesn't happen. Well, I get these genius ideas, and then the legal powers that be or whatever fuck it up from the business side, and then I have to wait for certain things to happen. But stick with me. I know this story is different, y'all, but Louisiana's worst serial killer, holy shit. And the fact that I had never heard of him is why I want to tell a story. I think everybody needs to know about it. I guarantee the people in Shreveport, Louisiana know about it. But that's it. And LOPA, Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency, y'all, they're a nonprofit. They save lives every day. If you're a lifer from Timbuktu and you want to become an organ donor, go to lopa.org, take 2 minutes, fill out the questionnaire, and become an organ donor. Chances that they ever use your organs to save anyone else's life are very slim. There's a lot of qualifying circumstances for that to have to happen. But there are people dying every single day waiting on an organ transplant. And if you are in the state where your organs can be used, why not give it to somebody else? I know people. I've talked to so many people. I got to hunt with Reese's, one young man who died, and he'd become an organ donor shortly before his death, and his organs went to a guy that I got to hunt with, right, who's alive today because that Reese was a hero. So y'all go sign up to be an organ donor and stick with us. We got a lot of stuff coming on, a lot of different things happening this year. And I'm Woody Overton, your host of Real Life Real Crime, the podcast. And until next time or ever, don't let me catch you down on Murder Bayou. Peace. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to or during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?